Everyone assumes the mighty aircraft carrier unleashes Tomahawk cruise missiles, but USS Abraham Lincoln, like every carrier, has 0 Tomahawk launch tubes. The brain of the operation floats above an arsenal it does not possess. Instead, real strike power comes from the destroyers and cruisers bristling nearby, each balancing a fixed grid of launch cells between offense and survival. In a crisis, this split changes everything, especially when a single reload is not possible at sea. So how did the world's most powerful warship become the mastermind, not the muscle, in modern naval warfare? There is a reason the carrier strike group is called a group. The aircraft carrier may be the centerpiece, but it is not the one pulling the trigger on a Tomahawk launch. In reality, the carrier acts as the command and control hub, a floating headquarters bristling with radars, antennas, and the nerve center for a fleet's decisions. It is the brain, not the fist. The actual firepower, the muscle, rides alongside in the form of Arleigh Burke-class destroyers and Ticonderoga-class cruisers. These ships are the ones packed with the hardware that matters, the Tomahawk batteries hidden in their decks, ready to be called into action. It is a setup that defies common sense. The world's most powerful warship, the USS Abraham Lincoln, does not have a single Tomahawk launch tube. 0. Instead, it's escorts, vessels that look almost modest by comparison, each field up to 96 or even 122 vertical launch cells. These honeycomb-like grids, embedded in the decks of destroyers and cruisers, are where the real decisions get made. Every cell is a choice. Do you load it with a long-range Tomahawk for striking targets 1,000 miles away, or do you reserve it for a defensive missile ready to intercept threats streaking in from the horizon? This division of labor is not just a quirk of naval architecture, it is a deliberate strategy. The carrier's air wing, with its F-35Cs and Super Hornets, can hit targets roughly 500 miles out. But a Tomahawk, slotted into a vertical launch cell on an escort, can reach twice as far. The carrier orchestrates the attack, relaying coordinates and timing, while its muscle, the destroyers and cruisers, execute the punch from a distance. The irony is sharp. The ship everyone expects to launch the most famous missile in the United States arsenal does not carry one. The real teeth belong to the supporting cast, each one balancing its finite grid of cells between offense and survival. In the next moment, every cell and every choice will matter. Every vertical launch cell on a destroyer or cruiser is a decision point. On paper, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer offers up to 96 Mark 41 cells, while a Ticonderoga-class cruiser stretches that to 122. But no ship ever sails with every cell loaded the same way. Instead, each cell becomes a square in a high-stakes game of Tetris, where commanders must fit together the right mix of missiles before leaving port. The Mark 41 vertical launch system isn't just a box full of rockets. Each cell is a hot launch canister, meaning the missile ignites right inside the tube, with exhaust vented safely down through the deck. This design lets the ship fire any missile on demand, from a cold start, without clearing the deck or moving crew. But it also means that every cell is a one-shot bet. Once you fire, that cell stays empty until the ship can reload at a secure port. Commanders face a constant trade-off. Load too many Tomahawks, and you risk running short on defensive missiles if enemy aircraft or drones appear. Pack the grid with SM-2 and SM-6 interceptors for air defense, and you might not have enough Tomahawks to hit targets deep inland. The mix depends on the mission. In a high-threat zone like the Strait of Hormuz in 2026, destroyers might devote 60 or even 70% of their cells to anti-air interceptors, holding back just 20 or 24 cells for Tomahawks. In a lower threat environment, that ratio can swing the other way, with more cells given to land attack or the new Block 5 maritime strike variant. Block 5 Tomahawks add a new wrinkle. With their active seekers and two-way data links, they can hunt moving ships as well as fixed targets. That flexibility is powerful, but it also means every Block 5 loaded is one less slot for the defensive shield. The decision isn't just about firepower, it's about survival. If a destroyer burns through its interceptors early in a missile duel, the whole carrier group is exposed. If it runs out of Tomahawks, the strike runs out of punch. Every cell filled, every cell left empty is a wager on what threats will appear first. Once at sea, there is no reshuffling the grid. The choices made before the hatches close will echo through every engagement that follows. For the logistics officer aboard a destroyer in the Arabian Sea, the real nightmare begins only after the missiles fly. Each Tomahawk launched is a cell gone for good, and in a high-intensity conflict, for example, a 2026 scenario off Iran, those cells empty fast. A destroyer might start with 96, but after a single saturation attack, the grid can look like Swiss cheese. The carrier's air wing can refuel and rearm at sea, but for the ship's vertical launch system, there is no such luxury. Once those tubes are spent, the destroyer is little more than a radar picket, its offensive punch and defensive shield both depleted. Reloading Tomahawk missiles is not a matter of a quick pit stop. Each canister is nearly 8 meters long and weighs over 2.5 tons. The process, even under ideal conditions, takes at least 48 to 72 hours dockside, if the ship can reach a friendly port at all. The main options are thousands of miles apart: Guam in the Pacific and Suda Bay in the Mediterranean. Both are safe harbors, but neither is close to the action. During operations from 2024 to 2025 in the Red Sea, destroyers that burned through their interceptors and Tomahawks had to peel away from the fight for 3 to 5 days just to reload at Suda Bay. In the narrow windows when a ship is missile empty and outbound, it is exposed, no longer a threat, but a target. Attempts to solve this problem at sea have run up against hard physics and harder safety rules. The Navy's tram system, a hydraulically powered rig revived from the 1990s, managed to transfer empty and dummy canisters between ships in calm waters off California in 2024. But no live Tomahawk has ever been reloaded at sea. Every test so far has used instrumented shells, not war shots. Heavy lift cranes and new frame-style reloaders have shaved minutes off the process, but scaling up to a full reload in open water remains unproven and risky. Sea state is the enemy. Even a gentle swell can turn a 2-ton canister into a swinging wrecking ball. Safety protocols are strict for a reason. A dropped Tomahawk does not bounce. The logistics officer's dilemma is simple and brutal. Once the vertical launch system grid is empty, the destroyer must run for port, leaving the carrier's brain exposed and the strike group's reach cut in half. There is no shortcut, no magic fix, just the long, vulnerable transit to the next reload. In a campaign measured in hours, those lost days could decide the outcome. 1,000 miles. That is the reach of a Tomahawk cruise missile fired from the deck of an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer or a Ticonderoga-class cruiser. Compare that to the F-35C fighter, the pride of the carrier's air wing, which can strike targets about 500 miles out before it needs fuel. This difference shapes the entire geometry of a carrier strike group's attack plan. The carrier itself, the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Arabian Sea, for instance, rarely closes within direct danger. Instead, it hangs back, sometimes 500 miles or more from hostile shores, acting as the nerve center. Its escorts, the destroyers and cruisers, push forward, forming a distant line of launch platforms spread across the sea. This is the architecture of the modern kill web. The carrier's radars, aircraft, and satellites scan the battle space, hunting for threats and targets. F-35C fighters range ahead, using their stealth to get close, spot enemy air defenses, or track moving ships. They feed targeting data back through encrypted links, passing coordinates to the strike group's command center. The Lincoln staff fuses this information, plots the timing, and assigns targets, not to its own decks, but to the Tomahawk batteries riding with the escorts. Once the order comes, a destroyer hundreds of miles away can launch a missile that will hit a target deep inside enemy territory, often before the defenders know the strike is inbound. This distributed approach turns the strike group into a single, integrated weapons system. The carrier does not need to risk itself near the fight. Its aircraft extend the group's eyes and ears, while its escorts extend the group's reach. Even if a destroyer has to peel off for a reload run to Guam or Suda Bay, the rest of the web remains intact, able to find, fix, and finish targets across a vast battle space. The brain stays safe, the muscle delivers the punch, and the geometry of power projection is redrawn, less about the ship with the most planes, more about the network that connects every missile, radar, and sensor into one seamless strike machine. In an era when a Tomahawk can strike 1,000 miles farther than a carrier's own jets, the irony endures. The brain never carries the muscle. As future wars hinge on what is left in those hidden launch cells, firepower is not just projection, it is a logistical countdown. Share your thoughts below.